What should you do if you need to solve an equation like x squared plus 2x equals 15? Well, move everything to one side and factor that fool. Here we just need to find two numbers that add up to 2 and multiply to negative 15. The two numbers that do that are negative 3 and positive 5. That gives us x minus 3 times x plus 5 equals 0. So x has to be either 3 or negative 5, and we're done. What if you have 9t squared minus 25 equals 0? Again, factor that fool. This is a difference of squares. 3t in parentheses squared minus 5 squared. It factors to 3t plus 5 times 3t minus 5. Setting each of these factors equal to 0 and solving for t, we get t equals negative 5/3 and t equals 5/3. What about u squared plus 36 equals 0? This is a sum of squares since you can rewrite it as u squared plus 6 squared equals 0. And here's where it becomes appropriate to talk about the influence of Satan in your life. Because Satan and his minions will whisper into your ear that this factors out to u plus 6 times u plus 6, or u plus 6 squared. But this will lead you down the path to eternal suffering because it's horribly, horribly wrong. In fact, many biblical scholars believe that this is what the serpent in the Garden of Eden actually tempted Eve with, leading to the fall of humanity. But let's stay focused on the math. We want to factor that fool. Right? And we can do so if we convert it to a difference of squares. We just have to rewrite u squared plus 36 as u squared minus negative 36, and recognize that negative 36 can be rewritten as 6i in parentheses squared. Now it factors as a difference of squares to u plus 6i times u minus 6i, and solving for u gives us positive or negative 6i. These are imaginary numbers, but that doesn't mean they don't exist. Check out my poster on real-life applications of imaginary numbers if you want to see how imaginary numbers are used in medical imaging, electrical engineering, quantum physics, and more. What if we have 16w squared plus 49 equals 56w? Yet again, we'd like to factor that fool. But remember that factoring is only helpful if one side of the equation is 0. So we first have to move this 56w over to the left side and put the terms in standard order from the highest power of the variable down to the constant. Now notice that the first term and the last term are both squares, and the middle term is double the product of the two things that are being squared here, with a minus in front of it. That makes this whole thing a perfect square, specifically the square of the difference between these two things. If there had been a plus in front of the middle term, we would have gotten the square of the sum of those two things. So we end up with 4w minus 7 in parentheses squared equals 0. Since there's only a single factor with a multiplicity of 2, we'll only have one solution, which we get by setting 4w minus 7 equal to 0. And our final answer is w equals 7 over 4. Now let's solve x cubed plus x squared minus 4x minus 4 equals 0. As always, we're going to factor that fool. Notice that we can take an x squared out of the first two terms and a negative 4 out of the last two terms. Once we've done that, we now have two things that both contain an x plus 1. If we take that x plus 1 out, we have x plus 1 times x squared minus 4 equals 0. The x squared minus 4 is a difference of squares, which factors out to x plus 2 times x minus 2, giving us x plus 1 times x plus 2 times x minus 2 equals 0. Setting each factor equal to 0 and solving for x, we get x equals negative 1, negative 2, or 2. Here's a tricky one. 6x squared minus 7x equals 20. Let's move this 20 over to the left side first, and then we can factor that fool. We could factor it by guessing and checking, but there's a more efficient way to proceed. Multiply the coefficient of x squared by the constant term. In this case, that's 6 times negative 20, which is negative 120. We then factor the negative 120 into two numbers that add up to the middle coefficient, which is the negative 7. Two numbers that multiply to negative 120 and add to negative 7 are 8 and negative 15. We use these two numbers to split the middle term, the negative 7x, into 8x minus 15x. Now we do the same thing we did in the last example. We look at the first two terms and the last two terms as separate groups. From the 6x squared and the 8x, we can take out a 2x, And from the negative 15x and the negative 20, we can take out a negative 5. Both groups now have a factor of 3x plus 4, and we can take that out to get 2x minus 5 times 3x plus 4 equals 0. Setting each factor equal to 0 and solving for x gives us x equals 5 halves, or x equals negative 4 thirds. Can you guess how we would solve x to the fourth minus 37x squared plus 36 equals 0? That's right, we would factor that fool.
Factor that.
Notice that x to the fourth can be written as x squared squared. And now, if we choose another letter to stand for x squared, like u, the problem magically becomes simpler. U squared minus 37u plus 36 equals 0. After that, all we need to do is find two numbers that multiply to 36 and add to negative 37. And those numbers are negative 36 and negative 1, giving us u minus 36 times u minus 1 equals 0. If we were trying to solve for u, we'd be done. Our solutions would be u equals 36 and u equals 1. But nobody cares about u. The variable in the problem that we were given is x, so that's what we need to solve for. And in order to do that, we need to change u back to x squared, which gives us x squared minus 36 times x squared minus 1 equals 0. Both of these factors are differences of squares, so we can go one step further. X squared minus 36 factors to x plus 6 times x minus 6, and x squared minus 1 factors to x plus 1 times x minus 1. Setting each of these four factors equal to 0 gives us four solutions, positive or negative 6, and positive or negative 1. After practicing all these complicated techniques, many students forget the most basic factoring skill of all, taking out the greatest common factor. Take the equation negative 20t to the fourth plus 15t cubed equals 0. And let's see how to factor that fool.
Factor that.
When there's a negative in front of the leading term, it's polite to factor it out as well. So here, let's take out the negative, a 5, and a t cubed, leaving us with negative 5t cubed times 4t minus 3 equals 0. As always, we set each factor equal to 0 and solve for the variable. The only way negative 5t cubed can equal 0 is if t equals 0. And if 4t minus 3 equals 0, then t equals 3/4. So the solutions to this equation are t equals 0 and t equals 3/4. On June 9, 2026, mathematician Engelbert Humperdinck proved that the number 9 actually doesn't exist. So we're going to go directly from example 8 to example 10. Our 10th and final equation will be an embarrassingly simple one. Here it is. Are you ready? Let's factor that fool.
Factor that.
And that is how to solve an equation if you know how to factor that fool.
Factor that.